Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Anders. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on February 8th, 2022 at approximately 6:39 a.m. PST. Today's going to be a little hectic on my end, but before I get started, thanks for joining me. This is a live recording, meaning that I double check the date when I get finished, post it as is. All the hiccups, all the twists, all the stumbles, they all come because, to my way of thinking, that's me. There is no point in arguing the point with me. With this in mind, I came back to this world for one primary reason. Okay, this lifetime I came back to help people understand that working together, we can make this world a better place. This is the message I came back to bring about. Now, I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the same tools I personally use to change the energy in my life and the same philosophies I live by. This does not mean you have to agree with what I'm telling you. This is just ways I've taken things. Now, a major project I've been working on is this one here. Now, this one is already out in print. That's The Birth of the Wolf Pack. Very complex little story. It will, in time, cover 12 volumes. Now, today I've got a call coming in from Author House, who are the people that produce it for me to put it up on Amazon. Okay. This is the book I'm coming in that they're coming to talk to me, that they're calling to talk to me today on. Okay, this is a sequel, The End of an Epoch, and it literally picks up directly after The Birth of the Wolf Pack. Now, both of these are already available directly through me. Birth of the Wolf Pack is available on Amazon, and the call today is what is necessary to put The End of an Epoch on Amazon. And in both of those books, when they're finally on Amazon, they are available in the Kindle version as well. Okay. Now, audiobooks is going to take me a while before I get to that. So I'm just getting the books worked around. Now, the nice part about it from my end is, on top of everything else, on this screen here, I'm actually working on Return to Paradise, which is at present, 142 out of 400 pages, so over a third of the way written. Okay, I'm aiming at having it out by the end of this year. So I've got a lot of work ahead of me, but the thing is, this is one major project. In all, it'll be around about 4,800 pages. I've got how many pages written already? That one. Okay, right now I've already got. I've got about 1,400 pages of the saga written. Okay. So, I mean, all in all, it's coming along quite nicely. Okay. Bear in mind, I'm writing all 12 books at the same time because they interlock. Now, I've talked to you about changing changing the energy in your world. And the way you do that is by turning around and take a look at any major project you're working on, break it down into smaller component parts so that you can get it done, so you'll see progress. This is why I track as tightly as I do where the story is going, because I'll tell you, it can be confusing on occasion. I think the worst stunt I pulled in trying to do it was early on when I was writing this one. Okay, early on, I lost one of the primary vehicles. As in, I was writing along and just forgot all about it, had to go back literally 8 chapters to figure out where I'd left it. Not a good idea when it was one of the primary vehicles. The one specifically was I lost the Samaritan. Okay, an armored ambulance. Okay, I misplaced the thing while I was writing it. So, I mean, it does get complicated, and that's why when you're talking about writing, okay, now, am I a professional writer? I like to think so, considering I'm published in five different genres. Okay, I'm published in science fiction, science fantasy, reference, self-help, poetry, and children's. Okay, so I mean, all in all, things are going quite nicely. And if you've got questions, it's like I've been working in the consulting field since I was 10, working on personal problems, working on business issues, alien technologies, and alien technologies, races, and cultures. Since I was 10. Okay. And of course, now I'm a published author as well. Now, this does not stop the fact I'm also rather reclusive, which is why I don't go out of the house much. That, and of course, I suspect that writing. Actually, as it turns out, I've got 33 books on the go now. Okay, thanks very much to one of our subscribers coming up with a brilliant idea that I should take this neat little reference manual. Okay, that's the first of the races of the world. Okay, and I mean I'm about 2/3 of the way through getting the pictures for it done. But one individual came up with the idea of putting a coloring book together, still with the information on it, but instead of doing the colors in full black and white, just do enough of an outline to turn them into a coloring book. Okay, and that is something that as soon as I'm done the pictures, which reminds me, I do have to get that dealt with. As soon as I'm done with the pictures and got them ready for the first book to start with, I'll be talking to my artist, the same one that's doing the books for the whatchamacallit, the same one that's doing the pictures for Races of the World. I will be talking to them about getting things done so that getting it sorted around so that we can get the coloring book done. And we'll see how long that takes. So I'll set that up with him the next time I'm talking to him. But the call today is to handle how to get marketing done properly and what have you. The fact of the matter is, when I talk about being able to make this world a better place for virtually everybody, I'm referring to working together. In my case, do I know how to write? Yes. I've got an editor that is doing a fantastic job. I've got an artist that I just love the work for. Okay, so I'm working on all of that at the same time. And now I'm going to be talking very in depth with the individual, with my marketing consultant out of Author House, to get that dealt with. Okay, to find out more on how to get visibility. And yeah, I've got to get a few things found, which reminds me I've got to dig that up as well. This is all stuff I'm trying to work on at the same time. Well, I'm not trying to work on it, I'm actually getting it done. But as you can tell, I do not sit around doing just one thing at a time. And one of the biggest tricks that I found is that little sign up there. The one that says, I am worth it. Those 4 words are the most powerful combination of spoken words, or written for that matter, that I've run across this lifetime. Okay, and even when I compare it to past lives, they are still the most powerful ones regarding self-esteem, self-motivation, self-direction. Just believing here. This is the key to changing the way your life is going. Now, we have spent centuries listening to leaders tell you, fear everything. Okay, fear absolutely everything. Okay, net result, what we have is a disaster of a society that is working hard to change. And I'm happy to say that I'm starting to see changes in the world itself, in individuals. Now, I'm a firm believer that 90 to 95% of people are really decent people. Okay, many of you are simply misguided. You're following leaders that are telling you must fear. you must fear everybody, regardless of who you are. Their skin color makes them different. If they're short, they're weird. They're different. They're different people. Okay, there's something to fear. Okay, and the fact of the matter is, we can continue working on fear. The point with this story that I'm writing, it's a toss-up. In all fairness, it really is. It's a real toss-up whether this is a story written from my imagination or, as you'll come to find out, written from my memories. Okay, because much of the information that I live by is getting written into these stories. Like when we get into there's some pieces of it in book 10, 11, and 12, but when we get back into the okay, we'll try that in English. When we get back to the first book of the series, okay, we start dealing in depth with things like past lives, where you're dealing with soulmates, soul family, twin flames, all of these concepts, as well as reincarnation. Okay, and then you've got your ancient races and your aliens. Okay, I've just started with book 12. I've just hit a point where some of the off-world races that have been out of context, they've been completely off the grid for the first two books that are already in print. They're now being brought in. Okay. Now, the nice part about all of this is it's all tied together because while I'm doing this, while I'm writing this side of it, okay, and if you're in the process of striving to write, the best thing I can tell you, you take your story, the way that works really well in most cases. For me, The Birth of the Wolfpack just kind of wrote itself. But now what I've done, and I recommend this method, if you've got a story you desire to tell, write it down in point form first. This little book here, this children's book I wrote. When I first wrote it, I wrote it down in just point form. Okay, this is Mr. Dreamcatcher. Okay, and when I wrote it to start with, I wrote it in point form, and then expanded on to fill it in. Added the line drawings and what have you. Matter of fact, come to think of it, this one I can show you. That picture there, these are all done. Now, I am not a great artist. I am not, I don't even consider myself a great author, but I've got little pictures inside it. These are all done by me using a simple program called Paint. Now, I don't know what's going to happen when I turn it over to Author House to put it out on Amazon. I don't know what it's going to look like. That's the way it looks when it gets bought directly from me. But again, I've tracked down a number of people that are helping me with various aspects. Because the reality is, if you're writing, it takes a lot more than just getting an idea down on paper. Okay, you must stay a very critical factor, especially in the case of a novel. Okay, it is absolutely imperative that you stay internally consistent. Okay, in other words, the characters develop and stay within their own guidelines, within their own personality throughout the book, throughout the story. If there is a major glitch, if you lose track of where somebody is, even if it's something as simple, and I've seen this done on movies when people are doing it, they'll have a scene going on, and they'll deal with it, right? But somebody will be wearing one color or one style of shirt. And when you come back from a commercial, they're in a different shirt with no explanation. The same thing applies to stories. Okay, when you're writing a story, and it's even more important when you're putting it on paper, because you've got to draw as many senses into that image as you possibly can. Now, people talk about five senses, as in hearing, taste, touch, smell, sight. But there's a sixth one that people forget about, and that's feeling. And all six of those, if you can encompass all six of those at the same time, you'll get a much better feel for the characters, and that will draw the people to your characters. Now, this applies as well when you're talking about the state of your house. Okay, if you're organizing your house or organizing your office, same thing. The more senses you can involve in reorganizing it, the better off it is. The more impact it's going to have. If you're running a real estate company, if your office feels clinical, feels detached, people are going to go elsewhere. Okay. The more senses you can involve in what you're doing, the better off you are. Now, there's a lot of things I don't personally worry about. Or more to the point, there's a lot of things that I haven't personally worried about. Okay. I've only just started really seriously taking a look at the whole concept of what I'm wearing, of what I look like to other people. I've literally only in the last week or so decided I was going to pay attention to it. Because, in all fairness, I was looking at it going, I didn't want to be around people anyway. This just, in all fairness, when I look at it, realistically, it boiled down to if I don't present myself properly, people will stay away from me more. Well, it's come to my attention that really goes against it. Therefore, I'm in the process of modifying that. Okay. And same thing goes for you. When you're looking at the energy in your office, okay, the backbone of your house, not the backbone of the home. Okay, the backbone of the house is your finances. You don't have to be materialistic, but you do have to realize it requires material stuff in order to get ahead. Okay, so the more at home it feels, which is why I got to start looking at bringing plants in. Okay, mind you, I have a problem with plants. I usually end up killing them. Okay, why entirely? I don't know. Okay, but the more at home the more home-like or relaxed, energetically appealing, the more productive you're going to be, and the more if you've got a real retail outlet or an office outlet where the public comes into it, the more inviting it is, the more likely you're going to draw people. Okay, now that applies to the appearance, the feel of it, the smell of it, the organization. All of these things come into play. Okay, now to give you a flip side of that, okay, you walk into most churches. They're absolutely immaculate. Most of them are in incredible shape. But the attitude and the energy around them quite often is a little, if you will, clinical. Okay, and what I found is you walk in, everything looks so neat and tidy that you almost don't want to sit on it, or you don't want to move it. And that's where the difference comes in of a home that is inviting and a home that is sterile. Okay, I always got a kick out of it growing up. You'd go to have company come over and they go, oh, we got to dig out the good china. Well, scrap that noise. Dig out the good china for yourself. Frankly, you're worth it. Why put on this face of this? I'm bringing this stuff out because I've got company. Okay, if you desire company to come over, absolutely make them feel welcome. But the reality is, you've got to feel welcome as well. And you're the one doing the work. And in all fairness, you're the only one that can do the work. Doesn't matter who you are. Ultimately, your success is up to you. Okay. So, I've taken this a little to extremes. Okay. I live my life my way. The tools I'm offering you are the same tools I personally use. Okay, and this said, if you like my video, do give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel because there's a lot more information coming out. Still trying to get organized on how that comes because most of the time, in case you hadn't figured it out, most of the time I tend to do things from the standpoint of, I do it on a wing and a prayer. What catches my attention today? Well, what caught my attention today is this meeting, this marketing meeting that I have with Author House to start getting the end of an epoch out in print. Now, the good news from my standpoint is I now have, yes, this is the one I'm working on. But the reality of it is the prequel to this, the original story, and that's the other neat thing. If you take a look at these two books, if I put them this way, you line them up back to back, and you'll see the pictures come together. Okay. But with this one, with me getting the marketing information on this one first, on the end of an epoch first, okay, or more to the point, an in-depth drive to it, what this will do is brings this one out in the open, but at the same time, and I should have done it, so I'm going to have to correct that now. I'm going to have to correct that in the front of Return to Paradise, which is the next one coming out. But I've got to start putting that list of books in the books themselves, because there's a lot of things going on. I do have the list on my Facebook page. Okay, my Facebook page, there's actually two of them. There's three. There's, of course, Ronald Keith Andrews, which is me. Inner Voice Enterprises, which is my company. And then Yldrbac, which is the storyline. Okay, which is the novels. And I'll be working on all of that and bringing it all into sync. But while I'm doing this, I'm writing the story, I'm correcting, and it's getting a lot of the information in written form as far as how past lives really work, how the soulmate came about, and why it came about. Okay. So and plus, of course, a number of other events and what have you. Many of the events that I talk about, that I write about, are drawn from my own personal experiences from past lives in a lot of cases. Okay, and many from this current life. Now, as I've mentioned to people, I am a role player. I play Dungeons and Dragons. And because of that, as I've said with the Yldrbacian Chronicles, it's a story that is written by a gamer, that'd be me, for gamers. And to that effect, there is, tied into this post-apocalyptic story, there is a small group of gamers that are brought into play at the same time. These are just standard people. They are not necessarily, they are not necessarily combat-oriented. They are just people that this is what they do. Okay, this is their pastime. And I have worked out a way to bring them into the storyline. Okay, which is in the end of an epoch, or in the Return to Paradise. I've actually got them dealing with that while battle preparations are being made. Now, this is not to say the gamers are disconnected. As a matter of fact, they're very involved. Many of the people that play Dungeons and Dragons have an incredible mind, a lot of research that they specialize in. Okay, so what I've done with my gaming characters is I'm in the process of building a complete empire in the gaming world. Okay, but I'm doing it the same way. I'm using, and a former girlfriend of mine actually pointed out that this storyline, the Yldrbacian Chronicles, can be looked at more as a biography. Okay, I've brought a lot of aspects into it that are from personal experience. Most of the people that are written about, whether they are characters or whether they are actual main characters or support characters, many of these people are either based on actual people or characters that other people have written about. Okay. Another former girlfriend also pointed out to me that I don't use gaming as an escape route. I use it more as a manifestation guide. Because much of what I end up building, I get the ideas while I'm gaming, and then I go out and replicate them in real life. Now, oddly enough, as twisted as that is going to sound, understand, in Dungeons and Dragons, there are characters that can put their hand on you and heal you. Now, this is a game. Okay. There are characters that can cast fireballs. It's called magic. Again, this is a game. But this also overlaps. I myself have seen it, and you may well have heard about it. It's something called Reiki. Okay. Which is the ability to put your hand on over somebody and help to accelerate their healing. Okay, now I cannot call what I do Reiki because I've never been trained. Okay, but I am an accelerated healer, and I do work. I call myself an energy worker in that aspect. But all I do is remind people's body that it can heal itself. Does it work in a staggering number of cases? The answer is yes. Even in many cases where the doctors have not been able to identify what the problem is. And this is where that conversation with one of the subscribers here came about, with a type of tea, with a tea concoction that he suggested. Okay. And I drink it, so, I've been drinking it for the last week stable. And all it is garlic, about a quarter teaspoon of garlic, a quarter teaspoon of ground ginger, about a teaspoon of honey, and then probably, I don't know what the amount is, but a second or two's worth of lemon juice. And this has helped immensely in clearing up the tension and the itch in my skin. Which, by the way, the doctors never did figure out what was going on. They took a stab at two different things, gave me two different medications, neither of which worked. Okay, this little concoction has been working like a charm. I gotta check something here. Yep. Okay, now I will be back again tomorrow. Okay, and hopefully I will have things a little more organized, but I'm not holding my life on my breath on it. But I will be back again tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.